everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Faith Brynel's Insights podcast. I'm Faith Brynel, and today I'm very excited to welcome Lubna Shuja. She is the former president of the Law Society of England and Wales from 2022 to 2023. She's a highly respected solicitor, mediator, and keynote speaker. She has extensive experience in the legal profession. She's a former board member and the chair of various disciplinary committees. Her leadership and contributions to the legal world are truly inspiring. So I'm very excited to welcome Lubna. So hi Lubna, how are you today?
Hello Faith, it's lovely to meet you and I'm very well today. Thanks for inviting me to join your podcast series.
Excellent, Lubna. I'm glad to have you here. And I think for all of the listeners, just to give a little bit more context, we are taking a more legal dive today. So let's get stuck in without further ado, Lubna. So as the immediate past president of the Law Society of England and Wales, what do you consider your most significant accomplishment, in your tenure?
Well, that's a great question, Faith, because it's made me stop and reflect a little bit actually, because my term as president came to an end about a year ago. And it's quite nice to be able to look back and think about, what did I do while I was president when you're not president anymore, because you kind of slow down and you've got time to reflect a little bit. I think to be honest with you, just being the first Asian, being the first Muslim, and being the seventh female to take office as president of the Law Society of England of England and Wales was pretty major for me. That was a huge milestone. As you probably know, the Law Society was established in 1825, and in actual fact, just this month, October 2024. The Law Society has launched its 200-year bicentenary celebration. So next year is the 200th year, but they've kind of launched it now. So, to be the first Asian, the first female, the seventh female, and the first Muslim in that 200-year history is pretty major. I'm very, very proud of that. But looking at what I actually did during the course of the year, there were a number of things that I was very, very fortunate to be able to work on, which I am really, really, really proud of. First of all, part of the role of being president is that you are representing solicitors all across England and Wales. And as you probably know, there are just over 200,000 of those.
Yeah.
And so part of the role is that you are representing the profession, and that would be in the media, includes I appeared on television, I was on the radio, I was in various newspapers, wrote articles, did a lot of speaking on a whole range of legal issues. So I spoke a great deal about the rule of law. I talked about access to justice. I did a lot of media around criminal legal aid, because that was a very, very big hot topic during my year. Spoke about the Bill of Rights, spoke about court backlogs, and also areas of law, so Brexit, immigration, probate issues, inheritance issues, that kind of thing. I also gave evidence before the Justice Select Committee, and that was on criminal legal aid, and that was a real highlight. It was very, very, very quite scary to go and sit in front of a committee in the House of Parliament and give evidence. It was a real highlight because it gave me an opportunity to speak on behalf of a sector of our profession who, they haven't been receiving the the rates that they should be getting. One of the big issues during my year was we also started a judicial review action against the government, which was a Conservative government at that time. And the reason why we started that, we got permission to start that, was because that government had not implemented the recommendations of their own independent expert report. They had a report that was prepared by Lord Bellamy. And he had recommended that the rates for criminal legal aid should be increased. And that was way back in, I think it was 2019 now, or 2020 possibly. I can't even remember, it's such a long time ago. But those rates have not been increased. And what we'd been seeing was criminal legal aid lawyers leaving the profession in droves. So we started a judicial review against the government on that. That was one of the things that I was speaking about quite a lot in media. And because it takes time for cases to go through court, that case concluded very, very soon after I stepped down as president, actually, and we were successful, which was great. But of course, as you know, governments have changed since then. We're still waiting for those proposals to be implemented. We're still waiting for the decision of the High Court to be implemented. And we're waiting to see what happens with all of that. Another really big topic during my year was lawyers being criticised, particularly immigration lawyers, for just doing their job. And that was another area where I was standing up for them publicly, because they were facing so much criticism and making it clear that they were acting independently, they were acting within the legal framework. And, everybody, no matter who they are, no matter what their background is, they're all entitled to legal representation and should get legal representation in a country like ours. One other highlight that was a big highlight for me, I don't know whether you're aware of this, but we have some 10,000 solicitors who work internationally. So outside England and Wales. And actually one of the markets that many of our members are really interested in is being able to work in India, in the legal services market in India. That's been a market that has been closed for, forever really. Lawyers from England and Wales haven't been able to practice in India, despite the fact that Indian lawyers, and in fact lawyers from many, many countries around the world, are able to come and practice here in England and work in England. So one of the highlights of my year was that I went to India and I had meetings with Indian ministers, with the Bar Council of India, with members of the Indian judiciary, members of the actual Indian legal profession. And I was able to persuade them that, of the benefits of opening up the legal services market to solicitors in England and Wales. And I was delighted when they agreed to do that, and we were able to sign a memorandum of understanding, which was a real landmark agreement. And I helped to work on drafting some of the relevant regulations to put that into effect. So that was something I was really proud of, because that's going to have a lot of value to many, many solicitors and law firms for decades to come.
Excellent, Lubna. Thank you very much for sharing your insights there. It's really, really I'm glad how you delved into your insight. I'm glad how you delved into your personal experiences and indeed your accomplishments across that journey. I think, to be honest, that is such an interesting perspective. And I think talking about how you were interacting with a range of different people from different backgrounds and really trying to, inform people about the legal landscape, informing people about your experience, and informing people about other legal professionals' experiences as well, because at the end of the day, they are still human. They do obviously have to navigate through different challenges as well. I think that's really interesting as well, and it leads me into another question, a question that I haven't actually prepared you for, but it's on the subject of burnout, because I attended an event last week in Solihull. We were sponsored by the Solihull Chambers and in partnership with the West Midlands Combined Authority, and a very interesting question came up on the subject of burnout. And I just wanted to ask you, Lubna, do you have any advice for those who are experiencing burnout? Because undoubtedly being a lawyer can have challenges.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Faith. You're absolutely right. I mean, I've been a solicitor now for, it's well over 30 years. And I know what it's like, particularly when you're fairly junior. But I mean, actually, it continues throughout your profession. Unfortunately, the legal profession is one where we do tend to work long hours and not really think twice about it. When you're in the middle of working on a project or a piece of work, or you've got deadlines to meet, or you've got clients that are demanding you. I'm a sole practitioner. I have my own practice, and I regularly, and I try not to do it so much now, but when I first set up my practice and for the first few years that I was working, I regularly used to work weekends. I'd be working late into the evening because, you want to make sure that you're delivering for your clients. You want to make sure that you're not disappointing them and you're able to respond to them and their needs as and when you need to. And often you forget about yourself when you're doing that. You forget about your own needs, you forget about your own well-being. And you can keep going and keep going and keep going, and then you kind of wonder why you're feeling absolutely exhausted, and you don't really put the two together sometimes. It's a real challenge, I think, but I think we're getting a lot better at it. I mean, certainly when I joined the profession, and to be quite frank with you, up until quite recently, in fact, COVID, I think, was the turning point. We never talked about well-being. We never talked about health. We never talked about stress. We never, you just got on with it. That's what you had to do. You had targets to meet, you had deadlines to meet. I'm a litigator, civil litigator. So, all of my cases, where you've got court cases going on, you've got deadlines, your diary is full of, you've got to get this issued, you've got to, get your documents in, get your statements in. There's always a deadline that you're constantly having to meet. And I think it's really good that one of the really positive things that came out of COVID was that we did suddenly stop and having to work from home made people realise that actually we don't have to live that lifestyle. We don't have to, let me tell you a little story actually, which I think you'll find quite interesting. I was speaking to a solicitor not long ago, and he had advertised for a couple of junior roles within his organisation. It was a legal role, solicitor, junior solicitors. And they got candidates. And when they'd advertised the role, they put in the job spec that the candidate will be required, it'd be hybrid working. So, you'd be required to come into the office some days a week, and you'll be able to work from home some days a week. And they basically offered the to a couple of young solicitors, junior solicitors, and they said to them, you'll be required to come in 1 day a week. Just 1 day a week, and the rest of the time you can work from home. But 1 day a week, we want you to come in because we want you to meet with the team. We want you to, it's keeping a bit of rapport in the office and keeping in contact with people, etc. Yeah. And apparently both of those candidates said, no, that's too much. I don't want to come in 1 day a week. I want to come in 1 day a month. And that was a real eye-opener because, what he then said to me was actually you need to be really, really clear when you're advertising roles about what your expectations are, because people's expectations have changed. Yeah. Many people now are deciding for themselves how they want to work, where they want to work, what hours they want to work, what kind of culture and environment they want to be in. And I think that's a healthy thing, actually, because, I think there are so many more options out there now than there used to be. Certainly when I came into the profession, it was a very traditional, you go into a law firm, you do 9 to 5, which actually would often not be 9 to 5, but and you just got on with it, and you didn't really have other options that you could explore. But now people are thinking very, very differently about how they want to work, where they want to work, what kind of work they want to do. And I think that's healthy because that's part and parcel of avoiding burnout. And also, making sure you're exercising regularly, you're getting fresh air regularly, you're taking breaks, taking holidays. And that was something we were all forced to do in COVID.
That's a great point, Lubna. That's a great point because I think the listeners can really relate to your perspective there, and really, really candid and honest, to mention how you've spoken to other solicitors. And I think, as you mentioned, the context of COVID definitely did shift things. There definitely was a paradigm shift in mindset in terms of people's working, in terms of what they were going to do, what they weren't going to do. And I think, as you mentioned as well, towards the tail end of your response, when you spoke about actually, exercising, there is something about, because burnout isn't just emotional, it's a physical and emotional sense of being tired, being exhausted. And so I'm glad that you fed into that. And really, additionally, I think I actually had the opportunity to speak to a solicitor myself last week, and actually we built up a great rapport because we could relate, because he was talking about how he's self-employed, and like yourself, he has his own practice, and he was saying to me that he doesn't like the corporate landscape, hence why he decided to work for himself. And I think there's such a beauty in flexibility, there's such a beauty in being able to decide, actually that doesn't work for me, actually I'd rather actually be at home, be hybrid, be remote. And I think that there has definitely been an increase in terms of remote roles being advertised as well, especially in the legal sector, because law firms are now becoming aware of what their what solicitors are looking for, and aware of what they're actually going to do at the same time as well.
But I think, just to add to that, Faith, the irony is the irony is that when you do work for yourself, and you may well know this and have come across it, in your experiences, but when you do work for yourself, you actually find that you work even harder and even longer hours because it's you.
Yeah, you are the business.
Stops with you. The book stops with you, so you have to make sure you're on it all the time. So it swings and roundabouts. But I think the starting point is acknowledging and understanding and knowing when you need to take a break, when you need to step back, when you need to act, and not just keeping on pushing through until you hit that break point.
100%, and really, I think a lot of the work that I do with schools and colleges and students through Faith Brynel Insight is speaking about the growth mindset. It's speaking about taking breaks, having good effective time management that really builds emotional resilience. And I think what I've actually found in terms of my research, in terms of my work, is actually students who have poor study skills actually have poor mental health as well. So there is something about taking a break. And for those who aren't aware, skills for study or study skills are frameworks by which educators across the world use these frameworks to help students and young people actually take in information, retaining that information, and then regurgitate the information in a coherent and succinct form. And so what I find as well is that we have to be talking to students and, you know, young people and those who are coming up and actually choosing a career path. We have to speak to them about that time management from the outset, so that they're not plagued with that when they actually do reach the point of their career. And really, I think this ties into some of your. I think we've already actually other question about how, you know, as a keynote speaker and emerging trends, you've spoken about how people are now moving into remote and hybrid work. To know a little bit about with your experiences as actually, let me go to this question because it ties into the kind of those who are coming up. So, what advice would you give to young solicitors and aspiring lawyers looking to take on leadership roles in the legal field? I can see you smiling there.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and you know, certainly something that I get asked quite regularly by many people. I mean, I think the first thing I'm going to say, which probably will make you smile a little bit, is one thing I will say to junior solicitors and aspiring lawyers is assume that anything you put in writing is going to end up in court. So be really careful about writing emails, about, you know, what you're putting in letters, how you're writing letters. And often, you know, if you're dealing with something that is particularly, you know, it's got your back up, or it's something that, you know, it's made you feel quite angry, always take a step back. Write your response, take a step back. Don't send it straight away. Perhaps even get somebody else to have a read of it and look at it. Because the thing is, what people don't often realise is that when you are moving into different roles, whether it's in the same organisation, whether it's in a different organisation, you will often come across people that you've already come across in your career. And they will remember things that you've done. They will remember the way that you've treated them. They will remember the way that you behaved. So it's always about being mindful of how you project yourself, how you present yourself, in any environment, because you never know when that's going to come back. And actually, you know, often people are watching how you're dealing with things, and that will impact their decision on whether they want to put you forward for leadership roles and whether they want to offer you promotions. So that's kind of an initial sort of, you know, always start thinking about, you know, where do I want to be and how do I need to behave to get there. That's kind of part of the thing. The other thing I would say also is being really careful about what you put on social media. And I'm sure people get told this all the time. But I think, you know, nowadays, sadly, social media has become the new kind of, you know, let's just put everything out there, whatever I think, whatever I, you know, let's just stick it on social media, wherever it may be, whatever medium it might be. And often people don't realise that when you are applying for roles, one of the first things that employers will do is trawl through your social media presence. Yeah. And they will look and check to see what have you been posting in the past, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whatever it might be. So that you have to, you know, my advice to young solicitors, aspiring solicitors, is be very, very careful about what you're posting, because you don't always realise that, you know, what you might feel very, very strongly about now can potentially impact your career further down the line. And things change, you know, the legal landscape changes, political landscape changes, and often something that you've said at one point in time is you know, something you wish you hadn't said later on down the line. So that's another thing to be really careful of. I mean, I think the key thing for trying to, you know, if you're looking to get into a leadership role, is to start getting you out of your comfort zone, because that's one of the first ways that you start to grow. So it's taking on roles, taking on opportunities that you might not have thought about previously. You know, I always say, you know, something comes along and it frightens you, go for it. You know, and I don't mean, you know, doing anything stupid, but I mean, you know, often I've been through, you know, during my career, people have said to me, you should put yourself forward for that. You'd be really good at that. You should have a go at that. And you know, it's something I haven't thought about because I think, oh my God, I could never do that. Are you joking? I haven't got the skills or the experience to be able to do that. But actually, if somebody else thinks you have and they can see
Yeah.
that in you, chances are you have got them, or if you haven't got them, you're going to learn them very, very quickly. And often, getting yourself in a role where you are learning is where you're going to grow and move to the next level. So for me, it is about, you know, getting out of your comfort zone, taking opportunities and growing with those opportunities to learn new skills, new experiences. You know, that's how you progress to leadership levels.
Excellent, Lubna. Thank you very much. That's been very fascinating and very insightful as well. Because the podcast is called Faith Brynel Insights, and you've truly delivered today in terms of your insights and your tips as well. I really liked what you said, and I think that really offers a very different perspective in thinking about social media. Because on one hand, some people say, "Yeah, go for it, express yourself," but then on the other side, it's actually your digital footprint. Actually, it's never going to be deleted, because someone actually made a good point. Yes, you can delete something, but it's always still able to be retraced. And so it's really important what you put out there. And it really, in the same vein, you know, when you spoke about in terms of leadership roles, go for it. If it makes you feel a little bit nervy, a little bit uncomfortable, really adapt that growth mindset where you believe that challenges are an opportunity to grow. Don't stay in that fixed mindset. And really, I think what you spoke about as well in terms of if you hitherto hadn't actually thought that you had those skills, that's, you know, and I think you've mentioned something very key. It's about really erasing imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome would say, no, stay where you are, don't, you know, come out your comfort zone because you can't. But what you've just said is basically the essence of starting to erase and really, you know, move forward in the context, in the presence of imposter syndrome. But just some final questions, really, just briefly. I just wanted to kind of get your sense on how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think work experience is?
I think it is important because, I mean, you'll see on a scale of 1 to 10, I know you probably... Depends on what you want to do, Faith, and where you want to go and where you want to be. I think one of the key purposes of work experience is actually understanding and realising where you want to work and whether you enjoy something that you thought you might enjoy. You know, often work experience will put you in a situation and you'll suddenly stop and think, hang on a minute, I don't like this. I don't want to work in this environment. I'm not interested in this kind of work. So I think it's important for you as a person to be able to understand what excites you, what interests you, and also what doesn't interest you and what bores you half to death. Because, you know, if you're you know, work is going to be a lot of your life, and you want to be doing something that excites you and that inspires you, and you know, you want to get up and want to go into work every day. So I think work experience is important. You know, you've got to be up there in the 8, 9, 10, whatever. In terms of what employers are looking for, I think for them, if you have undertaken work experience, it shows that you're serious about what you want to do. It shows that you've taken initiative to find out more about that legal field, that legal area, and to find out more about what you're getting yourself into. And, you know, if you enjoy doing the work experience that you've taken, you will learn skills just from observing, just from watching what other people are doing and how they're doing it. You will pick up new skills, new experiences that you can take forward with you into other roles. So I think work experience is important, but I think it's not just about narrowing yourself. I mean, certainly when I came into the profession and we talked about work experience, it was always about getting work experience in a law firm. You've got to go to a law firm. You've got to get work experience in a law firm. And I didn't know anything different. But now there are so many other areas where you can get work experience.
Transferable skills,
you can go in-house, you can go to other organisations. It doesn't have to be legal work experience. You know, quite often employers are more interested in what else you can bring to the role and what's going to make you stand out from other candidates. And that may well be doing something that isn't in the legal environment, doing something that's completely outside of it, but where you might have learnt skills that can be applied to a role in a legal environment. So, you know, learning how to talk to clients, learning how to understand them. You can work in all kinds of areas and pick up skills and knowledge that can be applied to a legal environment, and employers will be interested in that as well.
Thank you very much, Lubna. That's been a very interesting perspective, especially when you spoke about the work experience and what employers are looking for as well, and really stepping out of the box and doing something different. Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation, Lubna. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your candid thoughts, your honest perspectives as well, and thank you so much for coming on to the show. But just finally, how can people contact you after the show?
Oh, well, I'm on social media, having told everybody to be very careful about what they put on social media. I'm on there. So I'm on LinkedIn. People can give me a follow on LinkedIn. I'm on X, or as it used to be, Twitter. But LinkedIn is where I'm most active. I post a lot of stuff on there relating to the legal profession, and often I'll post things that might be relevant to junior solicitors and aspiring solicitors as well, about opportunities that may be available, etc. So give me a follow on there. I can be contacted through there, and very happy to people to get in touch with me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of my listeners once again for coming back to hear from Faith Brynel's insights with Lubna Shuja today. I'm Faith Brynel. This is your host signing off. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.